This morning, I know that some of y'all probably remember that earlier this year I came and talked to you about a mission trip that me, my mom, and my dad went on to Uganda, Africa. And so you also may remember that I told y'all that we were going to be going back that next May. And so I'm happy to inform you today that we did in fact go back. And today I want to share a little bit about with you what we were able to do there and what we saw God do while we were there in Uganda. And I want to start off by just thanking everybody who was able to give financial support. And I want to assure you that if you were able to do that, your money went to a very good cause and made a huge impact in these people's lives and in these children's lives. And I also want to thank those of you who spent time in prayer for this mission trip. Because your prayer, God heard those prayers because we saw God really work in Uganda, and I hope you'll see that today. So on the next slide, I want to begin today by talking a little bit about one of the things that we did in Uganda, which was the home visits. So, okay, yes, there it is. So one of the things we were able to do was go into the homes of some just very poor people's houses. These people are they're living in intense poverty that we can't even imagine here. I can't even really explain it to you. You would have to see it for yourself. But these people are just living in intense poverty. And so what we were able to do was go into some of their homes, and we were able to bring them some food, such as fruit, rice. We were able to bring toys for the children of the home. We were also, there were lots of village kids who ended up coming over, and we got to give toys to all of them. We also got to spend time just in each home just praying with these families. And it was amazing to see how, they were so thankful and grateful for these prayers and for these simple things like rice. And in this last picture here, you'll see an older woman. She's one of the ladies that we were able to visit her home. And what we found out when we were visiting with her was that this woman is just living in intense pain every day because she has a disease that, a bone disease that it makes it painful for her to even just move. And so one thing we were able to do was get some medicine for this woman that would really relieve her pain a lot, but because of the poverty she was living in, she just couldn't afford that medicine. So that was one thing that we were able to do. And then on the next slide, you'll see more pictures from the home visits, and you can just take a moment to just look at their houses, and some of them were just made out of sticks and mud. And it would just be one little single room, and there would be 10 people living in those rooms. And a lot of times they would just have one single little mattress for all those people. And so another thing we were able to do through your financial support and the support of some other churches was take account of how many people were living in each home, and we were able to actually get mattresses for each of these homes so that they had, somewhere to actually sleep. On the next slide, I want to talk about the crusades that we were able to do while we were there. So the crusades are essentially street preaching. So what we were able to do was we were able to go into an extremely bad area of town, just an area that was known for prostitution, for drinking, for partying. It was actually a Muslim community. And so what we were able to do was go for 2 nights to this town, and my dad, James Lagger, was actually able to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ on the streets. And I have good news to share with you all that through this, one drunkard man actually threw down his bottle in that moment and turned to Christ and accepted him as his Lord and Savior, as well as 3 prostitutes also came to know Christ as their Lord and Savior. So that made it all worth it right there, and it was truly an impactful night. And even those people who didn't come to know Christ in that moment, they heard the name of God, and so those seeds were planted through this. And it was just a very amazing 2 nights. On the next slide, I want to talk about one of the bigger things that we did while we were in Uganda, and that we got a hold of Vacation Bible School at 2 different churches. So as you can see from this picture, this is just from one of the VBSs. We had a huge turnout at both of them. We had over 100 kids at each VBS. And so on the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about what we got to do. And one of the things that we were able to do was provide meals for the kids each day of VBS. And so, that's something that we would take for granted, but for them, some of these kids are getting 1 meal a day or, maybe not even 1 meal a day. And so we were able to just, each of the days, give these kids a big, nutritious meal and just spend time with them. And you can see how happy they were to have that food. And then on the next slide, you'll see some more pictures from this. And what we were able to do was each morning we would start out by sharing the whole gospel of Jesus Christ with the children through gospel bracelets. So those are just beaded bracelets, and each bead is a different color and represents a different component of the gospel. So each morning we got to go through each bead and share the gospel with the children. And then later in the day they went into Bible study and they got to hear more in depth about the gospel of Jesus Christ, and just got to dive in deeper to that. And so and I have more good news to report that through these VBSs, a large number of kids actually turned to Christ and accepted God as their Lord and Savior. So that was another very amazing thing. And then on the next slide, I want to talk about something that we were able to do specifically for the children's home. So as many of you know, the children's home is one of the big reasons that we go to Uganda, just to support and minister and love on these kids. And so we actually do have a lot of sponsors who sponsor these kids to go to school. So one thing we were able to do was allow the sponsors to just send a small gift for their specific child. And we got to bring a gift for each of these children. And on one of the days, we, brought the kids in and just let them, open their gifts. And it was amazing to see the joy on their faces. On the next slide, you can see some more pictures from that. And it was just, it was amazing to see how something as simple as a baby doll or a soccer ball just completely made these kids' day and lit their faces up. Whereas, here in America, we take those little things so for granted. On the next slide, I want to talk about another thing we got to do specifically with the children's home, and that was we got to have a big sports day with the kids. So we went to this big open field, and we just spent the whole day just playing soccer, doing jump rope. They taught us some of their Ugandan games. We also got to take the time to paint each of the little girls' fingernails and toenails, and they were very excited about that. And so this day was just amazing, just to spend time loving on the kids, and just through that they saw the love of Christ. They saw that we cared about them. And we also got to spend this day, giving each kid a brand new outfit, as well as, some of the kids from the village came up, so we had plenty to give to them. And they were just so excited to get a new outfit. On the next slide, the last thing that I'm going to talk about today is what we did on the last night in Uganda, and that was we had a bonfire / house dedication for Kajambu. So if you don't know who Kajambu is, I'm real quickly going to remind you that he is a young man. He's a seminary student, and he's actually the one who, in the first place, got us connected with the children's home. So without him, none of this really would have been possible, and he does a lot for the children's home. He actually grew up in the children's home himself, but rather than, just growing up and leaving it, he stayed behind and kind of continued to love and minister to the kids who were there. And so he's an amazing young man. And so from another church, we actually had someone donate all the funds to build him a house. So we were able to actually go to his new house that he's going to be living at, as well as some of the older boys from the children's home. And so we were able to go there, and on the next slide, you'll see some pictures. What we were able to do is just spend one last evening with these kids. We got to, do face painting. We got to blow up balloons. We got to roast a goat over a bonfire. So it was a very fun, evening. And of course, it was very sad to say goodbye to them. But again, I don't know why I'm starting to cry. I guess I just forgot how much I missed them. But so we just got to spend, one last evening just loving on them and just sharing the love of God with them one last time. Okay, so on the next slide, the last thing I do want to talk about is we did find even more kids who need sponsors. And so these are some of them. And so that's my mom's phone number at the bottom of the slide. If you would be interested in sponsoring one of them, I'll tell you that it is, it's very cheap for us, but it's a very important thing for these kids to go to school, because here in America, no matter the poorest kid can get free education. That's something that we're able to do, but for them, education costs money for all of them, and money is just, it's something that these people don't have. They need that money to, provide food for their kids, which they can already barely do. But the sad part about it is, without an education, it's very hard for anyone to get a job in Uganda. So it's just this vicious cycle of poverty that these kids can't escape. And so, if you feel God laying it on your heart today, please consider, reaching out to this phone number. That's my mom, and you can call her, text her, and she'd love to answer questions about it. But thank you so much for hearing me out today and hearing a little bit about our trip. And we do plan to go back next year, so please keep us in your prayers and keep these kids in your prayers. Thank you.